Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the Upodcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Aamir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
Did you write a rap, Asim?
I did not. I was starting to, and I was like thinking about it, and I was like, dude, I'm too old for this shit. Clearly, that was like a thinking I had. Because funnily is why I remember when I watched 8 Mile, right? Because I used to rap, right? I've told you guys this, right?
Yeah.
I actually used to do battle rap, and I quit already. And then 8 Mile came out, and that just invigorated me. I was like, man, I should start writing again. And this time watching Gully Boy, I did not have that reaction at all. I was like, I should never write again. That chapter is closed. Like, I am the Mamu character now.
Did you... Ghazal क्यों नहीं गाते?
Ghazal गा देता हूँ मैं.
I have so much to talk about Gully Boy. Like, anyway.
Actually, I had a few people get back to me about this. They were like, wow, like, so the movie that got picked was Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahin, with quite like a sizable lead. And the second one was Sajan. But if you look at the poll now, Sajan is clearly the winner. So obviously when we have a deadline, which is Wednesday before we start recording, because it gives us time to watch the movie, at that moment, Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahin was winning. So that's our pick. But yeah, Sajan was very, very close until we picked it. So that's going to be our main review. Then we're going to be doing a spoilery review of Gully Boy 2 because we all saw it. Mm-hmm. And then we're also reviewing, because we have so much to talk about, let's pick out the year first. Mm-hmm. And this episode we picked out 2010. So we have Shah Rukh's My Name is Khan. Salman has Veer and the Bang. That's actually... And then Aamir has Dhobi Ghat.
And Peeply... Oh, wait, he wasn't... Okay, I guess that doesn't count.
Yeah,
okay,
although like Dhobi Ghat even barely counts, but it does kind of count. We have to put it in there. But I don't expect lots of people voting for that movie in any case. Okay.
I'll be surprised if Veer wins.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
I will not be surprised because that is who our audience is.
Okay, so guys, let's get into it. Let's do quickly Ek Ladki, because it's kind of already in theaters. And actually, I didn't even get a chance to speak to you, Sujoy, about it. What did you think of the movie? We did like a spoiler-free review last time where Haroon was on, but me and Sujoy hadn't seen it. So we've seen it now. And I've also done an interview with the director Shelley Chopra Dhar, which is on our other channel, Bollywood, Upodcast Bollywood edition. So people can kind of check that out. It's a different feed, so you need to subscribe to that. But I'll add it to the show notes on this episode. So if you haven't, it was really, really interesting. Sujoy, what did you think of Ek Ladki?
So I thought that the movie was just about all right, really. It represents something good happening in the right direction, and its representation is more prominent and more important than the movie it is. At the end of the movie, it's just another potboiler entertainer which is trying to say something very important, but it at the most crucial point when it comes to showing the love between these two women, it just falters because its lead, which is Sonam Kapoor, is not as strong. So I don't feel, when people say love means love when it comes to queer love stories or equality for LGBTQ, that love is missing. And that is solely because I don't believe in the love that Sonam has. I don't feel that she really is, I don't know. I just didn't connect with her at all, and that's why, if you don't connect with the romance in a love story, you just kind of enjoy it from afar. I was more interested in Anil Kapoor and Juhi's love story than, say, Sonam getting, being accepted by her family. But it obviously brings that conversation from, closed bedrooms to the families, and it opens up that conversation for people, for better films probably to be made in this genre. So in that way, it's more important. But it kind of felt very, I don't know, for lack of the word, very generic.
Yeah.
And very, very unimpressing, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. I think it worked slightly better for me, and also better than for Haroon, and I think also better for the public audience, and because I don't think the movie is done too well in India, at least. I spoke to the people at the studio, and they were saying that it's doing well outside of India more than in India, where I think it's kind of a flop in India. So, which is a shame, because I think what you're saying in a way, it's an important movie, but it's not necessarily a good movie,
Yeah.
And I think that's true. And I think it's one of those movies that needs a rewatch even. You need to kind of, if you, because a lot of times when you watch it for the first time, you just have like the surface level things that you connect with, and I certainly did. I definitely connected more with Anil Kapoor's character, especially because there's this daughter-father dynamic that I've said enough that gets to me, and there's some very, very strong visuals that really, really touched me. But again, I just don't feel it digs deep enough in any of those aspects. And I agree with you that Sonam is probably the weakest, but I think that's because we've not lived that life, because I've been reading a lot reviews and reactions by, LGBTQ people, and it really connected with them. And in a way, I'm very happy for them that it did something and it really touched them. Like, this father-daughter thing is working for me. That aspect is working for them, which is great. And it shows, just like a mainstream normal relationship without any weird or exaggerated hang-ups that sometimes Bollywood projects on, queer stories. So I kind of have that feeling that I almost had when Veere the Wedding came out. It was like, I was so happy for, a lot of urban women that felt we're finally getting some representation on screen the way we live life to a certain degree, a certain segment of it. So again, I have that same feeling. I am kind of sad that the movie didn't do well, because I do think it raises some important points. I did push Shelley Chopra, or actually I didn't push, I asked her that question about, I think the main concern is, why was the central love story not developed as well between Kuhu and Sonam's character? And I think her answer was something in the genre of that she didn't want to treat it as a big queer movie. She wanted it to be just a love story. But I think if it was a straight love story, then it would be a weak love story, if it was just like, if you discover that, he's always been engaged to, she's been engaged to the guy or whatever, and they haven't told anybody, that would not work as a movie. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it. And I feel they try to. So what I did really like is that the end is still messy. I really like that, okay, she's kind of come out to her family and she's told the village, but it's like, the village, not everybody has changed their mind. It's not like, everybody accepts them. The brother is still...
the brother is completely still against it.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of the reality that people like. Oh, I was also just thinking about Kuhu, right? She's going to be in this family where... like the brother hates her actively, the village is not open-minded, where she could have been living in London, where she would have a pretty chiller life, I would think, so, but again, there's never really a beat taken on that. You don't really understand what Kuhu is about. So, that's kind of a shame. But, the father dynamic and Anil is so good. Yeah, I do wonder if every time he's gonna have like a role as a dad, he's gonna have that Dil Dhadakne Do moment where he's like, if you touch my daughter, I'm gonna rip out your arm.
Yeah.
He's just gonna do that in every movie or something. But yeah, you didn't get a chance to watch it, Amrita.
No, but I will watch it when it comes out on like a streaming. But I was sick when it came out, and then I just never went out.
Yeah, I hope we didn't spoil it too much, but.
No, I mean, I think this is what I got from my TL as well.
Yeah.
From what everyone was saying. And I agree with you. Like, it's some movies, like, I agree with you what you were saying about them trying to play it both ways, because that's what it seemed from the promotions, where Sonam was just very incredibly reticent for Sonam leading up to the promotions of the movie. She just sort of like disappeared, and I think there was like one tweet or something that she posted saying like, oh yeah, I have this movie coming out, and then there was nothing, and I'll talk about it after the movie is released. And I was just like, well, and also it got all like wrapped up in the whole Raju Hirani mess, and it was a whole thing. But I think it is important that at least we have some kind of representation, and now we can strive for a better representation and for a more full-throated acceptance by the people who are actually making it, if not by the public.
Yeah. And people will see the movie, right? Like it'll come on TV, it has nothing that's, people families would feel weird or embarrassed watching it together or something like that. It has nothing of that. So even if it reaches like 5% of the audience they intended to, I think it's a good thing. You can't be, you can't see that negatively. So, yeah.
And kind of clever of how they sort of addressed that the conservative people being uncomfortable with the idea of two women falling in love.
Yeah.
They kind of addressed that in the play itself of people walking out. But there are other people who are there to listen to this love story and emoting and reacting to this.
Yeah. And it definitely focuses on the kind of the central kind of segment. The people that aren't super anti-gay people, but they just not been around them. It's just not part of their world. So and when they are in part of the world, they can just understand that this is just an aspect of life or sexuality that happens. So it doesn't try to convert, staunch anti-LGBTQ people. It just kind of, focuses on the middle that can be swayed. It's kind of like the Hillary Clinton tactic of trying to win politics, which doesn't work in our time, but that's a separate thing. Okay.
Can I just say, like, from now on till the end of time, every time I see Nas, the only thing I'm going to think is Itihasik Nas Bhai.
Nas Bhai. Both hard.
Itihasik Nas Bhai. Can't be just Nas Bhai. It is Itihasik Nas Bhai. I mean, I thought it was like a really well-made movie. And it also did like a couple of really fun things. So when you have like a making it movie, there's a format, right? There's a guy that's like trying, and it's really hard for him. And he almost makes it, but then he has a giant fall. And it's usually because of somebody that's close to him or like circumstances around his life. And then he needs to claw back, and then he makes it to the end, right? That is your classic format. So all throughout the movie, I kept waiting for like all these bad things to happen. Like, because I'm so used to this particular genre doing these particular beats. So I was waiting for like one of his friends to sell him out. I was waiting for MC Cher to get like really mad that he didn't get chosen. I was waiting for somebody to like give him a hard time because he's a Muslim kid and he doesn't drink. I was waiting for like all these little things to happen, and then and Zoya kind of took me to the brink. Like it seemed like Zoya knew exactly what I was expecting. So she like takes me right to that brink where I'm just like, oh no. And then she's like, nah, that's not going to happen here. And I thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
And I had fun. Like if the point of this movie was for the audience to have a good time, then yeah, that's what this movie did.
Yeah, even with Alia, I think that's also a few moments that you expect it's going to go this way, but that doesn't necessarily, especially if she's playing like a hijabi character and stuff like that. Yeah, she does kind of subvert those expectations. So, Joy, man, we saw this again together. The press screening was crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was a moment where I thought, okay, this is just going to turn into a full-on concert. Like, so...
The uncle next to me and his kid were like, Apna time aayega.
Yeah.
Apna time aayega.
Yeah,
And
spiky
everybody
haired,
went
flashy
nuts.
shirt uncle was really like trying to rile up the crowd, but we weren't having it.
No.
Aww.
Midlife crisis, uncle. Yeah, so dude, what did you? I mean, we saw it together. We had a bit of a chat about it, but what did you think?
Oh, I have so many things that I've been thinking about it. I saw it yesterday again.
Oh,
and like it is what Amrita said. It's a template underdog story, but told through the lens of how Excel produces movies in a very polished way. It's got so many layers of how Zoya perfects in telling stories of characters and the world that has been created around these people. The more I think about it, the more I get engrossed about the details. I just love this. I love this movie. Like from Alia to Ranveer's characters, their parents, their respective friends, and the world through which Ranveer's character Murad is being navigated through. We see the world through his eyes, the world where he is not allowed to go into, the world where he can get easily access to, and then the final realization of the convergence of these two worlds when Ranveer rises to his sort of opportunity. It's amazing.
I don't know if anybody listens to the Slash Film podcast, but I'm kind of referencing them for this one. So I saw a movie this week where a young floppy-haired poet brought under the wing of an experienced, charismatic alpha male is introduced to the world of hip-hop. While he's trying to navigate this new world, he reaches a point where he has to surpass his master to dominate the field and attain success and respect of his peers. But enough about the movie Bodied by Joseph Khan that I saw this week. I think that's a boom goes the dynamite joke. This movie was tough, man, for me. I think Amrita and me, we were kind of been joking about it up to the release and the marketing of the movie. Yeah. I had to shift my perspective quite a bit. And I think this is what I like about doing this podcast and just like living life. It's about, me having like preconceived notions and then kind of changing because of, experiences and all that. So I came in with my bias. I was like, okay, this needs to be real hip hop. This needs to be authentic and this and that. And Ranveer is a faker. And, also just Ranveer Singh. I'm not a huge fan of his antics off screen, and even in terms of the movies he's done, I think he's done around 12 movies and only 3 I've really liked. So I was kind of coming in with my bias here. And, I was surprised how much goodwill he has because I've not seen that many of his movies with a full crowd. Watching it in this press screening, I was like bowled over with how much goodwill he has from the audience and from the press and from the public. And, it's hard work, I always, say, the Khans were making, 5 movies, 3 movies in a year. And why is Hrithik Roshan not doing it? Why is Ranveer not doing it? Why is Varun not doing it? But Ranveer is actually doing it. He's making 3 movies a year and they're actually working for his audience. So it's graft. He's working hard. So you have to kind of respect that. What changed for me is I was coming in as this is a hip hop story. But when I was listening to the Zoya Akhtar post-mortem interview with Anupama Chopra that I think was posted last night, she was saying that, okay, hip-hop is kind of the framing, but it's about how the privileged have a monopoly on dreaming. And I thought that was a much better insight into the movie than, this is kind of a hip hop movie. It is really kind of a rags to riches story, and it needs to be more compared with movies like, Rocky or, Satya, something like that, where somebody comes from nowhere, he discovers he has a talent, and then he really rises up to, attain kind of a thing. So the mechanics of hip hop, I'm still iffy about, but I think they did a really, really good job. Even like I remember I was making a lot of fun with Gully Boy. I was making a lot of fun of Meri Gully Mein. But I think she did a good job in incorporating. I thought it was going to be like a promo song at the end of the movie, like they sometimes do. But she made it kind of an organic part of the movie, which I really appreciated. It made sense to me. So yeah, I think I was wrong on a lot of things. And I think I need to watch this movie again because it has so many layers in it. Yeah. I'm glad you got a chance to, Sujoy. I probably won't get the chance to do that until it comes out on home viewing. But it's the more I read about it, the more I see people's reaction to it. I really like it. I still don't like it as much as Zoya's other movies. I think it's still the weakest out of all of them, to be honest. Her previous three, I liked all three of them more than I did Gully Boy. But it's still, we're still talking about Zoya Akhtar, and she's clearly not only, like, I think Bollywood, our friend Jay at Bollywood wrote a review, and he said, Ranveer, you almost fear to be his competitor, right? As an actor, because he's just dominating the field. And I think Zoya as a director is also dominating the field. Like, there's nobody else on that level for me. She's one of the greatest at the moment working. And I'm so happy for her that this is just a clean hit for her, There's no, it's a medium hit, it isn't that big, There's always seems to be like caveats and criticism about her movies. Like even Dil Dhadakne Do, there was a lot of criticism about how it's, like rich people porn. But I think I'm just really happy for them that, this is just like a clean hit for everybody. It's a good movie. I hadn't seen a good movie like in theaters for a while. So I had a really, really good time with it.
I was tweeting that as well, like the Luck by Chance, or when it came out, it got rave reviews from everybody and anybody who saw the movie, but it didn't really necessarily translate into box office. And I'm really happy that this has gone out and made people go into the theaters and watch this and bring in the numbers, because only then you can fund future projects, right?
Yeah.
I think the part about Zoya being like one of the best in the game right now is what really struck me as I was watching this movie, because every single character in this movie gets like at least one scene in which they get to be who they are.
Yeah.
And like their little quirk or something. And it's also like very, like they're not, like they're all like little complex characters. Even like their sad sack friend, like Salman, who like Zoya bullies. Like, not Zoya, sorry, Safina bullies.
Yeah.
And he, like, who this guy is, Like when he goes up to Ranveer and it's like, you have to call her, otherwise she'll marry me. Like, it's played for laughs, but you know who this guy is. Like all of us know a Salman,
I know who Asim's favorite character is. It's Shah Rule.
Like I saw Shah Rule and his friends, and I was like, I know exactly who these guys are. Like I went to college with these guys. Like I know who these guys are. Like I recognized all of them. Yeah. Even like the guy who like Ranveer drives for, who like taps him and says, "What is your qualification?" Just so he can like show his daughter that it doesn't mean anything, that she's a graduate.
I think you met that uncle last night, right?
I mean, I'm related to that uncle. Like, all these little things. And Ranveer is perfect for that kind of a film, because he is like that scene where he meets MC Sher for the first time, and he's like, I've written these lyrics, and you think he's like showing it, But then he says, I thought I could write lyrics for you. And you understand the ceiling that this kid has on his aspirations. And it's not like a big scene. It's not like meant to be a scene that shows that kind of stuff. It's not showy. Like Karan Johar would like come in with like 100 violins in the background. But like Zoya just does it very naturally. It's like, this is who this kid thinks. Like, is a kid that grew up, he might dream in hip hop, but he comes from a city where they make Bollywood movies. So he's thinking, maybe I can be a lyricist. But the idea that he can be a performer, the idea that he can make his own content and he can publish it, like all these things are way out of his league, even though he is in college and he is studying to be a graduate. And the fact, like in the end, when he's on that stage, he's actually like, he's earned his right to be on that stage. And the movie like shows you his journey to being on that stage. And like what Asim was saying about like he hasn't seen a good movie in a long time on the big screen. That's what I haven't seen on the big screen in a while. Like a movie in which a character shows you their journey and shows you their arc and the fact that they're earning something. Because usually it's just like, like little bit struggle, then song dance, ho gaya somehow at the end.
Yeah.
So this movie like really shows it up, and I really enjoyed that aspect.
I think also in that interview with Anupama Chopra, Zoya Akhtar was saying that this movie is still an ensemble piece. Like she always does, like Dil Dhadakne Do and anything else. It's always been, ensemble pieces. And this is too. Although it is centered around Ranveer and it's called Gully Boy, but every friend, every family member has their little story, It's like... I love even from the first scene where this whole movie is kind of an arc of Murad being a background player, coming to the forefront. And it's not only shown with MC Sher, but it's even shown in the first shot where we're actually following Moeen. And then he's almost on the background, you don't even see him clearly, and that's his life. That's Murad's life. Sujoy, sorry, I cut you off. You were trying to say.
What we were talking about, the world in which Murad lives and the people that are in his life, as Amrita says, that when he takes center stage in the last, even just before performing, he's even then soft spoken. He's never been like screaming and shouting at the top of his lungs. The only like erupting moment that we see he does that is when he is working as this temp driver and the bouncer just makes him leave. So that's not his zone. He's been discarded from that world, and he then goes back to his car and starts rapping in the car within the confines of that car, and with
I
music
love that scene.
With the music he finds life, but without it he's just this person trying to find validation. He's being enabled by, say, the fierce and wonderful Safina, who is basically making plans for him. Without her, he's pretty much nothing, really. So I love the world that is inhabited by, you say, Moeen, who he is so close to, but who lives in this world of drug trafficking and children being made to pack drugs for him, or carjacking. And then you've got Salman, who's another, I don't know how what to say about Salman. And like sales managers of Benetoni. It's wonderful. Yeah.
I also love the relationship between Safina and Murad, because there's this overwhelming sense when you're online, when people are talking about like modern relationships and like New India and like blah blah blah. They always talk about it as an upper class thing or an upper middle class thing, like the fact that men and women can be equal, or that, like they can be partners. Otherwise, it's like, oh, poor people, they must have like very traditional conservative marriages. And then you have this hijabi girl who wants to be a surgeon and who, understands her own brilliance and understands what she wants out of life. Like she's very clear about the two things that she wants out of her life. he wants Murad, and she wants to be a surgeon, and not in that order. And whenever they like talk, and like Murad is like talking about like, he's just trying to like tell her, like he's just discovering all these dreams that he didn't even know that he was able to dream. And she says, that scene in the end where she says, like, you do whatever you want because I'm going to be a surgeon and our life is going to be set.
Yeah, I
like
love that. I love
that. I love that scene because it's like this, this little hijabi girl who like is like, I don't care, like you go out and you do whatever you want. I'll support you and you can go be a hip hop artist. That's fine. Like, that is amazing to me. And I love that Zoya wrote these two characters. And I don't know if that's actually how it is in the real life street rappers' lives, and it's actually taken from their life. But you know what? Even if it's just something that was written for this movie, it's a great scene and it's a great relationship.
It's also like, I like the fact that, they're all friends, they live in the same neighborhoody kind of area, but they still have differences in their social status, right?
Yeah.
So Alia is slightly better off than I think Salman is on that level or slightly different, but then Muin is way down, Murad is way down, that kind of thing. And I like that there was this variation because that's life, otherwise everybody's rich or everybody's poor. And that's not the case here. There's kind of it's just one part of their lives. And same thing with how the hijab was treated was amazing, because I don't think I've ever seen where it's just part of her life and sometimes it's not part of her identity and sometimes it is part of her identity. And that's how the women in my life that cover their hair, it is, sometimes they wear it, sometimes they don't wear it, so that aspect really kind of worked with me. And I also like that Alia is so small, right? Like just physically, it just made so much sense that she has this built up explosivity where, where she has that fight scene with that girl and they just carry her out and she's like kicking her legs in the air. It's just like, Kriti Sanan or Deepika Padukone, you couldn't do that, You carry her out like that just physically and it works. You could maybe do it with Shraddha Kapoor, or you could put her in a pocket. That also really worked.
My favorite scene with Alia being like a real like Toad Ford, as they call her in the film, is in the police station after she like breaks the beer bottle on Kalki's head. And like she's sitting very quietly in one corner, tucking in her hijab, waiting to find out whether she's going to be charged. I was screaming with laughter at that scene because she's like, such a little lady. It's like very carefully, daintily tucking in her hijab. Like, I would never.
And she does that also when like, phone dekh lo iska, like check out my phone. She knows she's got it, like she has a whole strategy built out already that she has no weird messages. She will not get caught.
I really liked when she says like when her mom is like completely mad at her and why did you lie to us and all that, and she says मुझे ये करना है मुझे lipstick लगाना है मुझे लड़कों के साथ बात करना है and all that. And later when Ranveer calls, right, and she's in the middle of studying and Ranveer says open the window, she pinches her cheeks to make them red. And just before when she's going to the concert, the final concert, she's applying lipstick, we get to see that scene. It's just a really great progression of her story as well, and we get to see the world of Safina through all these little story arcs. It's brilliant. I really like it. Also, just to point out something here, I saw something that I had completely forgotten about, but yesterday I remembered it and wrote it down so that I don't forget it again. If we remember Jab We Met, right, and when Kareena is just about to miss the train and the Tamatar wali ke Tamatar, they just fall down because she's crashed into her. It's kind of like that. We get a snapshot of the world of this Tamatar wali. And in here, when Just before that scene when Ranveer goes into the car and starts rapping because he's really angry, we get to see a scene of how these car drivers who bring along all these ultra-high socialites into these parties, what do they do? How do they spare their time, right? And this guy who is a driver, he's practically teaching how to make some vegetable recipe to the other drivers. काट के pressure cooker में डाल के 3 सीटी लगाने का. It was amazing.
Anything that you didn't like about the movie, Amrita?
Well, there was that whole it's not that I didn't like it, but it just really stood out to me is like the dressing that everybody had, the hip hop people were dressed in this very American black rapper gear, which you don't need to wear a fucking hoodie in Bombay heat. You wear a puffer jacket in Detroit, that's a totally different thing than you wearing a puffer jacket in tropical Mumbai. So that really, and I, in that scene where he's late to the audition, so he, everybody else is dressed like they just stepped off a flight from from New York or something, and he shows up in his office gear, his salesman wear, the shirt and the pants and the belt, and his hair neatly swept to the side, and everybody kind of looks at him like, what are you doing?
You don't belong here.
Yeah. But I actually liked that scene a lot because I was just like, that is who he is. Yeah. He is the guy that is a salesman, and that is what he wears. And that was an authentic thing. And then when he gets on that stage and he starts rapping and he talks about how he has, he's made it on his own and it's not like his daddy's money. That's a really authentic way for him to be rapping, and a really authentic way for him to present himself. And it really worked. And then he just went back to at the end of it, when you see him opening for Itihasik Mass Bhai, you see him dressed in the puffer jacket again, and you're just like, oh.
He's wearing a hoodie, but underneath he's wearing his kurta.
Oh, he's wearing a kurta, is it?
Yeah.
That's how I dress usually.
Itihasik Asim Bhai.
I am Itihasik Asim Bhai, actually.
And I saw Anushi's, one of my other, Anushi Majumdar of the Indian Express, she said that she thought that maybe they'd put him in brown face. Yeah. But I think Ranveer is actually, I think it's just him being tan from being out in the sun.
Yeah,
I don't think they were browning him up to such an extent, but I think they definitely toned down on the makeup, because I definitely feel like he gets lightened up a little bit in his other movies. And in this movie, they just went with the opposite, and they were like, well, we'll just leave your natural skin color out. And I think that's because, you saw with all the other artists that came to do the show, I went with my friend Jan, who doesn't really watch Bollywood that much, and she told me that she'd never seen Alia before, and she was like, I like that little girl. I was playing the hijabi. She was really good, I thought. And I was like, yeah, she's in everything. You bet she's good. But she, also we both were absolutely in love with Siddhant.
Yeah, he's so good.
MC
Sher, who is amazing. He's amazing. He is really good. As an actor, as a performer, he's that introduction scene where he comes on the stage and does that Sheraya thing.
So good.
Fucking star. Amazing. He should be in, I hope he gets to be the next Vicky Kaushal or whatever,
Yeah.
If anyone deserved it, it's that kid. So my friend was saying, all of a sudden, when the rap thing started, everything seemed super black. All of a sudden, the chains came out, everybody was a whole lot more darker skinned. People were wearing all the hip hop gear. And she was just like, where did that happen in the middle of Mumbai? And I was like, oh, I
think it does happen. I think that's how they dress. And that's some of the parts that I just have issue with. But
Yeah.
that's more again into the authenticity of the scene and how much of it is co-opted, and I don't really necessarily want to go into that too much. I actually do recommend people watch Bodied by Joseph Khan, which delves much deeper into these issues about co-opting culture and finding your place into it and how to deal with it, and also battle rapping. It's actually available for free on YouTube, so people can watch it. I strongly recommend it, and people like me, like hip-hop heads that didn't get what they needed from Gully Boy, Bodied is really good there. I would recommend it. One issue that I had, and I don't actually want to ask you about it, Amrita, because me and Sujoy talked about it a little bit. I felt Alia forgave Murad a bit too quickly for his infidelity. But they don't go into it too much, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I don't know. In a way, I understand it because they've been together for so long, and they did break up, and this is that age of people. When you're younger, you're kind of okay with these things. I just felt it happened a bit too quickly. I don't know. It didn't sit really well with me. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's also just because I think somebody raised this point, is that Ranveer is older than he's playing in this movie. And sometimes that clashes a little bit because, Vijay Raj is his father. And he doesn't look necessarily old enough to be his father. And I think Siddhant Chaturvedi should be older than Ranveer, but he isn't, maybe those dynamics sometimes didn't work as well. But I don't think anybody else could have played this role except Ranveer,
I think it just... Ranveer's parents being as young as they are on screen also shows that probably they were married off too early, very young.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that scene where his mom starts screaming and starts saying things like, did you ever try to find out how I like to have sex?
Yeah.
And you just see you really understand how messy that family situation is in that scene.
Yeah.
Because you just see just how dysfunctional his surroundings are.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you were saying about Alia and forgiving him, I don't think they do that. I think what happens is if they had just broken up over the fact that he made out with this girl, and they're not clear about whether they have sex or whether they just make out.
Yeah.
Because it's very clear that Sky works on a completely different moral system than Murad and Safina. And Sky obviously already knows that he has a girlfriend and she's cool with cheating with him on her. Anyway, I think what happens with the beer bottle incident, I think it starts with Safina being mad at Murad for lying to her and not being sure if he cheated on her or not. Because it's very clear up until that point that Murad tells her everything and he doesn't lie to her usually. And that's what she's upset with in the first place, that he lied to her, and it's a new thing. And then it switches into the part where Sky is trying to be the upper class girl that she is. And she's like, let's talk it out like adults. And she's just talk to this beer bottle bitch, and gives the dick her right across the head. And then that snowballs, and then her parents find out, and that becomes a bigger issue. And I think this whole thing about him cheating on her just sort of goes on the back burner, and then they break up. And they break up, and it's very clear in the movie that they break up because he feels guilty about lying to her. And then in that next scene where it's heartbreaking, where he's if I break up with Safina, it's as if I grew up without a childhood. I mean, that really tells you how important they are to each other.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a passage of time that is not particularly clear in the movie, where he tries to talk to her, but then they don't really connect. And then he just stops calling her until finally she's like, fine, I've had enough of this bullshit. Puts the squeeze on poor Salman. And is like, well, I'm going to be your wife unless your friend calls me.
I love that when her mom is putting the photos in front of her, you can see her mind working, when she picks out Salman's picture. It's okay, I got them now,
Yeah.
It's it's hilarious. I mean, Safina's character is like one of the best like female characters that I have seen in like a very long time. Like she's like a total kamini, but she's also like she and I would be friends, or I would try to make her my friend if I ever met her. But she like I think by the time like they reconnect and he confesses to her, they both come to an understanding of like what the other person means to them, which I don't think they forgot, but they needed to just reaffirm because they've been together for like, 9 years or whatever.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing to like have a break at that age,
Yeah. And then like, he tells her the truth. I think that's when, she doesn't actually like forgive him physically. Like, she only like kisses him after he tells her that, yeah, it's right. Like, I did cheat on you for a bit. And he doesn't like, again, it's not very clear exactly how much he cheated on her, but he does admit that he cheated on her. And then she's like, okay, fine. We'll, I've got a pass now for like whenever I fuck up. And he's like, fine, you do whatever you want. Just don't leave me. And she's like, fine. And I thought that was, I think that was believable.
Believable, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's what college kids do, right?
But whenever he cheats, like somebody's gonna get hurt real bad.
But I think it was just the aspect that Safina is explosive and like has a lot of anger, but she also is getting beat up by her mom.
Yeah.
Her mom is violent, so violence is just part of their routine and their language. So it's her mom was terrible. Like just generally.
Like, everybody in this film. I mean, when Vijay Raj is like beating his wife and he's beating Ranveer, I mean, those are like proper bitch slaps. I mean, it's not even like a movie slap. It's like a full like swing and a patak right across the face.
Yeah, the audience like sighed every time that happened.
Yeah.
It was violent, man. Like all their lives are like so. Like Salman, poor thing, is like the only one I think that isn't exposed to like some kind of violence. Even with Sher, like his dad being a drunk.
Yeah.
And they show the fact that he's a bigot. Like his dad is a bigot as well as a drunk and everything. But like, and you can see that Murad recognizes that. Like the moment like his dad is like, "Oh, where are you from? Bindi Bazaar." Like, and it's a very like, it's exactly that kind of discrimination that you would see in real life, where nobody will come out and be like, "Oh, you're a Muslim," but like they will say things like, "Oh, you're from Bindi Bazaar." Like that is like code, it's dog whistles, and you would see things like that, and you kind of see that like the kind of violence that these people live in on a day-to-day basis, and how like hip hop is like really their outlet, as Asim was saying at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah. I also actually watched a short movie on YouTube. It's called Bombay 70. And it's about Nazi, which I mean, the movie is dedicated and inspired from Divine and Nazi. I didn't know how much it's inspired by Nazi's life. So watching that movie, it's like 10 minutes. It's available on YouTube. It's quite good. And Nazi is also a Muslim. And so they took a lot out of where he kind of comes from and the way he raps and all that kind of stuff. And even that visual of Ranveer, rapping through that chunni using it as a pop filter, that tea strainer. That's exactly what Nazi is doing in this movie. He records everything on his iPad, or he used to at least when this movie came out. I hope they've gotten more money since. It's funny how much is just straightly inspired. So I think, Zoya, like no other director, really went deep into this world with these people. Clearly, she spent a lot of time with it, and that authenticity then kind of comes into her filmmaking. And it's almost like authenticity to the level of documentary filmmaking, in commercial cinema. And that's just like how good Zoya is, you know. It's like, wow, like, you know, I think it's just like so much of the praise and the marketing and everything is centered around Ranveer, and he's great, no doubts about it, even from, you know, somebody who has a lot of criticism against him. But Zoya,
especially during the promotion circle of Gully Boy, he's been doing, like he's been going full throttle about all his hip hop persona. It's just, at least the movie is good, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm at that point. I'm just gonna mute his name. You know, like also because I have a few Stan accounts that I follow and stuff like that. It just seems garbage to me what they're tuning anyway. And so I'm at that point where I'm just going to mute him and just focus on the movies, because that's the way I can survive. Because this Ranveer, I just cannot stand anymore. You know, like the ostrich jackets and the stupid hats and the stupid glasses and then the stupid statements and then the rapping and people being so impressed with this rap and stuff like that. I just cannot take it that everybody's a hip hop expert suddenly.
Awesome.
Yeah. I said I wouldn't say this, right? But
No. You know where this is going to end, right, Asim? Like, he's going to put out a rap album.
Oh.
in protest of Gully Boy's hip hop movement.
Yeah. I want a rap battle between Abhishek Bachchan and Ranveer. This is where it needs to end.
Oh dear. Ek main aur ek tu.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm really sorry, but I need to check out. I need to go. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Can you do Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahin without me? Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to say Pooja Bhatt is she is a revelation in this film. Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahin. I love her in this film. She's so cute. She's like the Alia 1.0. And I'm very sorry that I can't be talking about it. But anyway, I will talk to you guys later.
So yeah, Amrita had to leave us, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about Dil Hai Ki Manta Nahin.
झलकियां सुर्खियां एक हंगामा खेज सुपर कैसेट से दिल है के मांगे दिल है के मानता नहीं के गीतों में आपको अपने साथ आवाज मिलाने की दावत दे रही हैं अनुराधा पौडवाल।
हम तो मशहूर हुए आपकी।
I was not looking forward to watching this movie. I have to admit.
Really? Why?
The thing is, you know, I mean, I've said this before. I didn't grow up in India and Pakistan. I was I knew this movie was a hit. I knew the soundtrack was a hit, but I never lived it. You know, it wasn't part of my life that much. Uh-huh. So I was always because I remember people were this was a massive hit. And I remember people telling me that people were looking for that hat that Aamir is wearing. And people were actually wearing similar hats. It was, so I just heard that, but I never really was part of that.
But it's part of that pop culture. When Maine Pyar Kiya came out, the friend cap took a complete life of its own. It's just completely like that.
It was, right?
Yeah.
Did you have one?
No, I didn't. I was too cool for that.
But did you know people that were wearing the hat?
Yeah, of course.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, so I didn't have any of that, right? So, and I just was thinking Mahesh Bhatt as a filmmaker, you know? It's funny because he kind of came up with these art movies and, you know, he was kind of a rebel filmmaker. And when he embraced commercial movie making, I just felt he had such a disdain for commercial movie making, you know? He was wholesale lifting plots, he was so wholesale lifting scenes, you know, just he was Sanjay Gupta before Sanjay Gupta, you know?
Yeah, pretty much.
And that disdain for commercial cinema really, I felt, came through even as a young guy watching movies. I was like, this filmmaker doesn't respect the genre he's making. So I never really connected with Mahesh Bhatt that much with those kind of movies. So I'm kind of surprised that a lot of people were like, oh, he's the best filmmaker of the time at that time. And I just don't necessarily agree.
I think when we go back and look at his filmography, he's done the art house cinemas like Earth and Saranch and Naam before, and even Daddy was really good. But when it came to commercial cinema, like you said, like his filmography is full of like scene by scene remakes. Like, so where's the direction in that?
Yeah. And also, like, clearly he's struggling with budgets. Like, the thing that I stood out to me, like how low budget this movie is.
Yeah.
And it really stood out with there's "Ae Mere Sapnon Ke Saudagar," where Pooja Bhatt is suddenly in kind of this fantasy dreamland, and the production design is like high school play level. You know, I was like suddenly like thinking children would come out in bunny suits and start singing "Prem se humko jeene do, jeene do, prem se humko jeene."
The clothes that the extras are made to wear in these movies are like, isko koi bhade mein nahi lega. Nobody will rent these dresses, so they get them for free or some discount, and that's why they are wearing that.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So what did you feel about Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi revisiting it?
So, obviously with movies that come from the 90s, there is some sort of a nostalgia associated with it, and that's why they are so dear to us. Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi came into my life way before It Happened One Night or Chori Chori with Raj Kapoor and Nargis. So this was the original for me.
This was the original.
But yeah, my association with Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi is purely because of the wonderful soundtrack, and revisiting it, I was looking forward to listening to them all again. The story is acceptable enough. The two leads are great, and the whole chemistry between them, Pooja Bhatt being this really snobby upper class, Papa ki bigdi hui aulad and all that, versus Raghu Jaitley, who is this self-made man and he's got his own principles and things going on. I really enjoyed the firecracker chemistry that they shared together, and just the scope of Anupam Kher being as outlandish with his mustache as well as his acting is a win in my books. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was a massive hit, and in a year of massive hits. 1991 had, I think, Sajan was the biggest hit, and Hum, Saudagar, Phool aur Kaante. And this is like, I think this Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi was in the top 10. But it's especially the music that stood out. It was composed by Nadeem Shravan, I think, right?
Yeah.
And apparently there were some issues with the movie soundtrack, because Kumar Sanu was supposed to sing all of the songs, and then they had some fights with Gulshan Kumar, and he decided to redo the songs with other singers. So some weird things happening there. But yeah, the soundtrack is huge. Maybe we can talk a bit first about the music, because that's really what this movie is about. It's like, I like that they still try to do things differently. Even though, it is kind of a low budget kind of movie, it really stood out to me how low budget this movie was more than anything. I mean, there's no real villains in this, there's no real fight sequences except one, I guess, but I think they just forcefully added that, to have Aamir do some action. But like, if you look at the title track, right? Yeah. I remember watching it the first time, and I thought it was so cool that not the entire song is lip synced. They only lip sync in the dream sequences. And that was like really new. I didn't know, I'd never seen that before. Right?
And switching back and forth with the watermelon.
Yeah. Reality versus expectation kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they did 500 Days of Summer before 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah, they've got that cute little sequence where Pooja Bhatt is picking off the seed with her mouth in the dream sequence, and in reality she just picks it up and shows it to him,
Yeah. And she's so
Yeah.
good, like going on the point of Amrita, in that dream sequence, she really comes alive. The way she's shot, the way she's
Yeah.
lip syncing. That I think that's probably her best scene in the title track. She knew, if I do this well, I'm going to be a star, and I mean, this is also the launch of Pooja Bhatt. She had been in Daddy before, but this was kind of, her mainstream heroine thing. And then she followed it up with Sadak very quickly. So we kind of forget how big of a deal Pooja Bhatt was, right?
Yeah. Sure. But then, after Sadak, then she did a whole string of very insignificant movies, but that was the 90s,
Yeah.
You do whatever you're given, basically. There was no scope for, like Madhuri and Sridevi and Juhi were ruling then, and then you had Pooja Bhatt who was doing movies with Mithun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the point of how low budget this movie is, T-Series produced this movie alongside Vishesh Films, which is Mahesh Bhatt's company, and both of these were just, starting up then.
Oh, right.
They were just foraying into the market of making movies, and that's why they went on to do much bigger projects later. But this was when they were just, trying to make ends meet with this movie, basically.
Yeah, and it's a successful formula. They kind of created this formula, right? Or not, maybe not created it, but made it viable. Because I think they had done it before with I don't know if it was before or after, but Gulshan Kumar's brother. Remember Kishan Kumar, right?
Kishan Kumar, yeah.
Yeah, that was the same kind of time, I think. I don't know if it was before or after, where they were also just making movies that just had good songs in it, and that was it.
Bewafa Sonam and Aaja Meri Jaan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, all good soundtracks, because they were movies made to sell the music album, right?
Yeah.
But I think Vishesh Film, that partnership really worked for them, and it's still I think Vishesh has really good music most of the time in their in their.
Oh, of course, Ashiki was before this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So no, that was great. What did you think? What did you think of the other songs? I mean, this soundtrack wasn't like a big deal for me. Like, again, because I wasn't like living in India, Pakistan, so it didn't live as much for me. It was just like an album like any other. I did enjoy it. But what were kind of your standout songs or moments in it?
So when we were talking about Gully Boy and the Murad's auntie saying, "Tum ghazal kyun nahi gaate?" So this movie has like the whole gamut of 90s pop music blended with ghazal. So you have Anuradha Paudwal's like Hum To Mashhoor Hue and Kaise Mizaj Hai Aapke. So all those tracks were big hits, but they eventually did not make it to the movie. The only, like, rather than saying which songs I liked, I think the two songs I did not like are the Dulhan Tu Dulha Mein Ban Jaunga. I don't like that song at all. And
is that the party song? No.
No, when Aamir's character Raghu just goes off to Bangalore and he's coming back and he's dancing with the Barat.
Right.
I don't like that song. And Dil Tujh Pe Aa Gaya. I don't like that song either.
Dil Tujh Pe Aa Gaya is funny because like the way the movie the song is shot, they're in a gypsy village, right?
Yeah.
And you have these two gypsy dancers, and by looking at the faces of the gypsy dancers, like there's like these background dancers in Bollywood movies that that they're going to get replaced when the song starts, or it's going to suddenly turn into a dream sequence and the main actors will take it over, or they'll knock out the singers and then take over their disguise. As soon as those two people appeared, I was like, okay, these guys are going, and Pooja and Aamir will be taking over the song.
Like they will probably like strip off their clothes and wear them themselves. And
yeah, exactly.
How much of a disguise it is? Come on, guys.
Yeah. I mean, there's moments when you have those. So you have those two comedy uncles playing spy versus spy.
Rakesh Bedi and the other guy, Virendra Saxena.
Yeah, I don't like Rakesh Bedi. I've never liked him. Like, I don't like Tiku Tulsania either. These comedy uncle kind of guys, I've never liked them in any movie, so I kind of like get a bit of a reaction. So there's a moment where they kind of burst into their bedroom when they're like in a guest house, and they don't even bother disguising Pooja, but she's like no makeup, no hijab, no nothing. And then Aamir just impresses them with his cut body, his no pack. It's too bad Amrita's not here. I was going to ask her how hot Aamir was looking for her in this scene. I'll ask you, how hot was Aamir looking?
Oh, very bangable.
Like, I think the word "der pasli" is invented for that sequence.
Masal dekhaya, masal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear.
The other thing,
but there's a lot of like Banjara and Gypsy extras in this movie. Outside the guest house where they're staying, when Pooja Bhatt is wearing that lungi and singing "Mainu Ishq Da Lagya Rog," that's also Banjaras outside having a campfire and setting the scene.
Yeah, she looked good in a lungi, man.
Oh yeah,
the lungi look, I was amazed.
And she's wearing chappals in there.
Yeah. So what was the other songs that were pretty good? Most of the songs are pretty good. I think the title track is still the best one for me. That's the standout one for me. There's no matching it. What was I going to say? The thing I also noticed about watching it is how much this is DDLJ before DDLJ. Like, there's like beat for beats, like when they miss the bus, even the Bhag Ja Beti to a certain degree, there's a lot of these. There's a lot of these scenes in it that I was like, wow, this is very DDLJ. The lift asking scene is also from DDLJ, right? Don't they? Or am I wrong?
As in they are in Europe and all that.
Yeah. So I was wondering how much Mahesh Bhatt was kicking himself when DDLJ becomes such a big hit afterwards. Coming back to the songs, apparently, like, I mean, people that listen to our other podcasts know that I don't like Jeremy Renner. In the Avengers movie, his face just annoys me. And in Bollywood, the equivalent is Deepak Tijori. His face annoys me. And apparently, he was supposed to be the Deepak Kumar character.
Oh, okay.
Which he has perfect douche face for. But he didn't want to be like a supporting actor, which he clearly was his entire filmography. I just like that all throughout Deepak Tijori's career, he's been fighting to be a leading man, and it never happened. It never happened. But it was just like, even in that first song, he was like...
Kalyat Sankle,
yeah, that one. What is that song? That's a folk song, right? Or something?
Yeah,
what is that?
It is, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't like that song.
You don't like that song?
I don't like that song. I never liked it.
Oh, man. That was, in today's terms, what we call as a bop. It was such a massive hit.
This is Chogara Tara.
Yeah, pretty much Chogara of the day. Yeah. And like in our school annual function, we danced to that. Like, not me personally, but other... there was a Yellow House team who danced to Kalyat Sankle, and we danced to some other folk song.
What does it mean? What does the lyrics mean? Do you know that?
I have no idea. I think it's either Konkani, probably. No idea. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It just always felt like a copy of a folk song, like when I listened to it, and then Deepak Tijori's face didn't help for me. So I never really kind of liked that.
Oh, it's... Okay. Oh, it's... I think it's Marathi. I don't know.
So... What else do we have? What did you think? I like the way that they played with the whole spoiled princess trope with Pooja Bhatt. I mean, she's like clearly waiting for her, prince on a white horse kind of moment, and that's played by some actor called Deepak Kumar, which he plays like a proper douchebag because he's had 3 women fall for him. 3 women.
and his douche face act is pretty on point, by the way.
Yeah. I also like that. Like, there's no reason why the movie starts on a ship. Like,
the only reason why is because it's a copy of It Happened One Night and the, Chori Chori, which all have that same template.
Okay. I thought the only reason was because the ship was from a company called Pooja Shipping. So I thought that was the reason that they did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then what do you think of Aamir in this movie?
Like, he plays this character really well, right? He knows the beats of how to be this hustler kind of reporter. Like, he wants to tell people what he is, even though he's not that. And then he makes his way. He tries to sell his personality to anybody and everybody that he can. But again, at the end of the day, he does not accept money or I don't know what his deal is. He wants the money, and then I don't know. He plays it really well. The whole the being of Raghu Jaitley is a bit confusing to me, but he's a Kamina. At the same time, he's very good-hearted, and also he's got like principles and shit.
Yeah. वो दो नंबर वाला है ना, वो बहुत तेज है. That's what I kept thinking the whole time. But this was a look, man. The hat, the jacket, the rolled up pants. I mean, people are still like, rolled up pants are a thing now. So I was wondering how much of a trendsetter Aamir was, but he was clearly, right? This was like popular hot Aamir. But yeah, and also I like the name Raghu Jaitley. I mean, it's no Kisaria Vilaiti. It's not that level of awesome name, filmy names.
Or Lagda Tyagi.
Asghar Jarrat.
Oh, wait. I've got a good one. Wait. What's fucking... Can't remember his name.
Which one?
Oh, fuck. Just wait. Lotia Pathan.
Of course, good. Yeah, Lotia Pathan. That's a good one. Those are like my top favorites. Kisaria Vilaiti, Asghar Jarrat, and Lotia Pathan.
Lotia Pathan, yeah.
So Raghu Jaitley, not a bad filmy name, I must say.
Yeah.
And he did crack me up. I was also like, how many iconic scenes has Aamir had in a bus? Like, more than any other actor, I feel. Because he had this, he has Andaz Apna Apna, and then there's also one in Bazi, right? Where he has a good one. I love Bazi. That's one of my favorite Aamir movies. I don't know, I don't know if there's a lot of love for Bazi, but I like that movie a lot.
I think I haven't seen it.
You haven't?
Is that the one with Manta Kulkarni, right?
It is the one with Manta Kulkarni.
No, I haven't seen it yet. I get to see, like, this movie has a lot of, like, in the yesteryear supporting cast of Bollywood 90s, like, you've got
Avtar Gill.
Obviously, Avtar Gill and Rakesh Bedi, Tiku Talsania, we've already talked about. And then we've got Javed Khan, who is like also in Andaz Apna Apna. We got Mushtaq Khan, who is the bus conductor, who is also in Hum Hai Rahi Pyar Ke. And then who else? Shubha Khote, Deepak Tijori.
Tiku Talsania, obviously.
Yeah, Tiku Talsania, yeah. It's amazing to see just all these familiar faces everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like us going to a Bollywood screening and seeing all the familiar people.
Yeah. No, it's really a movie of that era. And it also, like, I think also the Bhatts used to kind of use the same actors a lot of the times. Like, Mahesh Bhatt always has Avtar Gill in his movies, like, at that time.
What's a Mahesh Bhatt movie without Avtar Gill?
Yeah, exactly. Also, something I never noticed, there's that scene where Pooja Bhatt gets kidnapped for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Not the second kidnapping, the first time where she's taking a lift by a guy that's kind of shady and tries to then assault her. And then Aamir comes in and he says, he's like, Raman Raghav naam hai mera. He's playing Raman Raghav. It's kind of a funny connection with Nawazuddin Siddiqui. At that time, I didn't even know who Raman Raghav was. I actually got to know about him after the Nawaz movie.
Okay.
So yeah, again, that's one of those things because I wasn't, in India or Pakistan. That's just one of those references that got beyond me. So I think there's three parts to the movie when you think about it, right? There's the music, which we talked about. First part is kind of a road movie, and then the second part of the movie is just a chase sequence. Like they're just chasing everybody and trying to get back Pooja and stuff like that. And it's quite a long sequence, almost like 20 minutes, that then ends up with a fight and all that. And then I don't know if I mean, it is a long movie, though, right?
I think that was the kind of template that was being followed in the 90s, right? Every movie had to be like a 3-hour long movie with an intermission in between. So, like, otherwise, the audiences felt cheated or paisa vasool nahi hua.
Yeah.
So it's essentially just a 2-hour long movie, but an hour is added just because there are so many songs in it.
Yeah. And the other thing that also kind of stood out to me was like how prevalent and loud the background score is of this movie. Like it's constant barrage of just like, noise, and and it just, that's where I feel I feel it's so weird that this is where I feel like Mahesh Bhatt has such disdain for commercial cinema. Like in his other movies, he's very quiet. He's very like, there's no background score. There's moments of silence and contemplation. And here he's just like loud banging remixes of the main songs and this and that and bushu, and it becomes so loud and obvious. And
they overuse the title track in like various versions of the background score. Like there's a piano version, there's some crazy ass remix version or something. Like we get the point. It's the title track,
Yeah.
But I had something interesting that I saw on YouTube about how this is a remake of It Happened One Night, right? Which is like it's a remake of Chori Chori, which is a remake of It Happened One Night, and It Happened One Night came out in the 1930s, and then 1930s was it or 40s? I can't remember. With Clark Gable and movies like It Happened One Night and Some Like It Hot. These were called the screwball comedies of the era, right? A mixture of satire and slapstick and a rom-com. All these three genres come together to make what the screwball comedy genre is. And it kind of is dead in Hollywood. We don't get to see this anymore, where there is loud expressions and all of these happening. Like even with movies like what Tyler Perry makes, it's a completely different genre, right? But do you think we still have that alive with movies like Main Tera Hero and the David Dhawan genre of comedy? Do we still have that in 2019, 2018?
I mean, would you not then put like a movie like a Rohit Shetty movie into that category then?
But Rohit Shetty's movies are not about romance or essentially making any. I don't know. It's weird because Rohit Shetty's movies are more. I identify Rohit Shetty's movies more with flying cars than flying hearts.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I think it's like we're trying to find how to make love stories again. And I think it's kind of a tough one. I don't think we've cracked it. Anyway, I mean, we've lost how to do them. The genre doesn't work anymore, and I think it's a shame because it's such a big part of it makes people happy, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I don't. Yeah, I think you're right. It's not something that necessarily exists that much anymore. Or at least doesn't connect with audiences that much.
Yeah. I mean, there is a stark disconnect from reality when it comes to movies like Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi, when Pooja Bhatt's character, who's strangely enough called Pooja itself, she runs away thinking that she's in love with this Deepak character. And then on the way, she meets Raghu. She has confrontational sort of chemistry with him, and then falls in love with him. And then within a span of, I don't know, a couple of weeks at max, she finds love, and that happened. I guess that's very filmy, but we believe in that.
I mean, Jab We Met is the clear connection, right? That's like again, but Jab We Met does something more, I feel. Like adding that whole level of, Geet not being Geet anymore.
Yeah,
elevated that.
Coming to terms with reality rather than her own universe of Geetness.
Yeah. I mean, so again, it needed to do a little bit more to the existing formula to make it fresh, and I think that's why we like that movie so much. But yeah, it's true. I think, by the way, It Happened One Night came out in 1934. So yeah, it's been a while. I've not seen that movie actually, so maybe I should go and revisit it.
I saw that movie very much after Dil Hai Ke Manta. It came on HBO when I was in India, and I instantly, I didn't even know what this movie was, but when I saw it, I had the instant connection. Oh, this is the original.
Yeah, and is it a shot by shot remake?
Pretty much.
Yeah. All in all, you were happy to revisit Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So would you recommend it to people, or? It's hard to find a decent print too, right? We struggled with it.
Yeah. I mean, the sound itself, I can see that T-Series is becoming, it's already number 2 in terms of worldwide subscribers on YouTube. And they are trying to sort of remaster their older classics and make it, because everybody loves that era of Nadeem Shravan. It's peak 90s with Kumar Sanu, Anuradha Podwal and all these people. And they have remastered the soundtrack of Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi with better visuals for the music videos, but there is no good print available for the movie. The only print that we could find was with the sound being quite tinny. It's almost like listening through a smartphone kept inside a glass container or something.
Yeah. It was a pain, and there were no subtitles available either. So it's a bit of a tough one, and I hope they can kind of update it. I moderately enjoyed it. I wasn't really super enamored with the movie revisiting. Yeah. I think it's very much of that era. Mm-hmm. And the songs are still great. I think it was really cool for Pooja Bhatt that she had such a great launch, and she had a moment in Bollywood, which was kind of cool to revisit that. And she's still really, she's a cool person. You can just see that, she was always like a rebel and did her own thing, and she still is. And it's kind of really cool. I don't think she and Aamir necessarily had chemistry together, but I'm kind of I started thinking, does Aamir ever have chemistry with anybody? And I don't know if he does, if he can't have chemistry with Juhi Chawla, then who can he have chemistry with,
Yeah.
He just seems very...
When you think about Aamir's chemistry, the only thing that comes to my mind is Aankhon se tune ye kya keh diya from Gulam. When they are in the car with the shadow of the rain falling shines on Rani's face. Yeah, that's
I think that's Rani more than anything. Rani just has she's
Rani
fire.
Creates the fire to cover both of them.
Yeah, I think that's more Rani than Aamir. Let's see.
Rani is lit.
Yeah, she's lit. Cool. I guess that's it. I think that's all we have for Dil Hai Ke Manta Nahi.
I had written 2 lines of rap for Gully Boy, and
please, I want to hear this, man.
Disappoint me. I thought you would do some homework.
No, do. Maybe it'll get me inspired. Tell me, what's your rap to wrap up the show? What is your Gully Boy rap, man?
अपना राजा मुराद बोला अपना टाइम आएगा किस को सफीना बोली मेरे बॉयफ्रेंड के साथ गुल्लू गुल्लू करेगी तो धोपतोएंगे ना उसको.
Nice. That's a good one, man. That's good. Both hard.
Oh my God. Oh, we haven't talked about the dialogue of this movie, the authenticity of how they sort of filter out the abuse, but it still feels very Mawali street Mumbaiya slang kind of a language, and it's very consistent all throughout. I I really liked it. But anyway.
Apparently, like Zoya wanted kids to watch this movie, so they wanted to keep it clean, which made I think it doesn't take away from the authenticity at all.
Of course, yeah.
No, Gully Boy was good. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It was a bit of a weird one. We talked about Gully Boy more than we did about our main review, but I think we covered most of it. And unfortunately, Amrita had to leave us a bit early. You can find Amrita at Amrita IQ. So, Joy, where can people find you?
I am on Twitter at 9E3K.
Yeah, and I'm on Asim Bernie, or you can follow us at Upodcast. You can drop us a mail at upodcasting@gmail.com. Subscribe to our show. Leave us a rating. I still have some goodie bags. I sent a few over. Lena, she won the Thugs of Hindustan one, and I had a few more people asking me. I've got a few more goodie bags. If you leave us a review, send me a screenshot at upodcasting@gmail.com. I can send them over to you. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Oh yeah, and vote for next episode, which is going to be 2010. You can pick between My Name is Khan, Veer, Dabang, and Dhobi Ghat. And that's it, guys. Thank you for listening.